Hello everybody and welcome back to Gardens and Crystals with me, Wesley Peterson, and today I have a repotting video for you, and this video is all about my gigantic collection of Zamioculcas zamiifolia, the beautiful ZZ plant. I have so many pots of this plant, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in front of me here, because a while back I was out raiding the rack and I found some smaller examples of this plant, like this one here and the ones I have beside me here, just like this, absolutely beautiful, in pots for like 20 kronas a pot. So I just went in and grabbed me a bunch and put them together in different pots. For example, this pot I'm holding here, this has I think I put 3 small pots in together in this pot, and it has just flushed out beautifully for me. The lower leaves are the original height, and the taller ones you see here are all the new stems that have come out that are more than double as tall as the lower ones. Absolutely beautiful plant. So just so that you can get a quick closer look at this beautiful plant, look how it's growing. Look at the bottom. All of that new growth, and then the long stems here at the top. And you will notice that this plant, I planted it in a plastic pot with a nice aerating soil, and then I covered the top of the soil with leca balls, and it hasn't affected this plant at all. It's been in my bedroom in a dark area. I usually go in and leave the bedroom light on, or it gets the light from the hallway that filters in now and again, but it's not in a very bright area. Plastic pot, leca balls on top. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? Well, I go in and water this plant every now and again when I feel like it, once a month or something like that. During the winter months, I will be watering this plant probably a lot less, but it has just been flushing out for me. There's a lot more new stems coming out of this pot. So it hasn't been overwatered. It's been enjoying the way that I've been caring for it. And I'm very, very happy about it. So that shows if you're very careful, you can have your plant in a plastic pot and you can put stones or leca balls or whatever you want on the top to decorate it. The new stems are hardy, so they will be able to push their way up through this. But it is highly recommended that if you are a heavy waterer, to plant these plants in terracotta pots. And that is what I'm going to be doing with some of my other plants today. Now, I was thinking of repotting this one, but as it's doing so well, I don't want to. And it's filling out this pot itself with new stems. It's doing perfect, so I'm leaving it exactly as it is. But as I said, I will be showing you today how I repot my other Zamioculcas zamiifolia in terracotta pots. So look here everybody, I hope you can see the difference in this plant compared to the last one I showed you closer. This is the absolutely beautiful Zamioculcas zamiifolia Raven. This has dark foliage on its leaves. The new leaves, when they come out, the new stems and the new leaves are a lovely light lime colour, which contrasts with the beautiful darker foliage and stems as they mature. And look at this absolutely gorgeous plant I have in front of me. This has flushed out new stems for me and has been doing quite well. I've had it at our cottage, but I've noticed recently that it's starting to hang a lot to the front, and some of the leaves on some of the stems have become a kind of brown colour and they're not looking so well. It also looks a little bit dry. I think I left it for too long without watering it, and then when I watered it too much. That is detrimental to a ZZ plant. They like to be dry in between watering. They can go longer periods without water, but it can be damaging for them if it's too long. And then if you suddenly give them a lot of water, that will also be very damaging. They do need a kind of consistent flow of drying out and watering. And also the plants don't like too much of a temperature change. So in our cottage, when we're there, we have the radiators on and so forth, and then it's suddenly 25 or above Celsius. And then when we leave, we put the temperature down to between 10 and 15 degrees, and then it's suddenly like winter. So it's too hot, too cold all the time for this plant, and I think it's upsetting it a little. And I love this plant so much, so that I've brought it back to our apartment, to our indoor terrace garden. I'm going to be repotting this today into a terracotta pot, helping the plant stand up a little bit more, fresh soil, and see it bounce back and look much more fresh and healthy. I mean, it really does look fine. You can't really see much of a problem with this plant. It's thick, it's lush, it's gorgeous, but I know just by observing my plant that something is going on. So I want to give it a little bit of a boost now. Now, this ZZ plant I'm showing you here is the monster of the family. This plant grows out stems that are, well, the highest one I've measured on this plant right now is 85 centimeters tall. So they are very, very long. Oh, and this pot's very, very heavy. But the thing with this plant is you can see all of these stems here are new growth from this summer season. I've had this plant a minimum of 2 years, probably longer. And every year it flushes out new stems in the springtime usually. And they race up very quickly, and then they get too heavy for themselves, and then they flop and they snap. Because they really are very, very long, and they get very top heavy with these big, beautiful leaves that they get on them. So I have string around the middle here and a stake that is holding them up, because they would just flop over and snap every single one. I've lost so many from the bottom. Another thing I've been noticing with this plant is that it races up with new stems. They look beautiful, and then all of a sudden the stems and the leaves start yellowing out, dry out, and die back. And I haven't had that problem with any of my other ZZ plants, but this one is struggling. And I'm sure it's because of the pot situation. Now look at this pot. It's in a ceramic pot, and yes, it has a hole in the bottom, but it's a ceramic pot, and I don't think the plant is enjoying this situation so much. I want to get it into a terracotta pot so that the pot is breathable all the way around for this plant, top, bottom, and sides. So I won't be putting anything on the top of the soil when I repot this into a terracotta pot, because I really want to see how it's going to help this plant readjust. I want to show you it closer because I have a lot of stumps from stems that have been cut back, so that you really get an idea of how many stems come up and how many have snapped or had to be cut back. So look at this, there you go. You can see there are so many stems that I've had to go in and remove. And I think that's pretty sad. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, no. Oh, I nearly just lost the whole thing on camera. It's so heavy and so top heavy. It's really difficult to figure out how I'm going to do this, ZZ. So in the new pot, I'm going to be repotting it lower down in the pot, and I'm going to cover all these old stumps and everything that really do not look good. It just makes the plant look unhealthy and unhappy. But all those areas down there where I cut back is where the plant flushes out these new stems the next season. So I know that next year this is going to start flushing out more stems. So I'm not worried about it at all in that way. As I said, I've had this plant a couple of years and it's just been doing the same process. But I've realised now that this pot situation is not doing it for this plant. It's been in this pot a couple of years. So repotting and a stick to help hold these lovely, lovely stems up, because they're gorgeous. Have you seen the leaves on this plant? They're absolutely wonderful. They're a lovely lime green. They're big. They're absolutely wonderful. So I just need to get in and sort it out. So here's another one I have. It looks like a pair of staghorns. It's absolutely gorgeous. But again, this plant has flopped forward. So if I show you around the back, you can see all the stems have flopped forward in this pot, and it needs help to be re-stabilized and repotted so that it can stand up again. Absolutely nothing wrong with the plant itself. The leaves you can see are gorgeous on this plant. Nothing wrong. A few new stems have come up, but this plant just needs to be rebalanced, and I've decided to pot this plant up together with two of the other pots I have behind me in a bigger terracotta pot, and then I think it's going to look wonderful because then I'll have a fuller plant straight away. And I'm running out of space around here, so I can't have all these pots of just ZZ plant everywhere, so I'm going to be putting them together so I can save some space for other plants. So right, I'm ready to get on with this now. Now, this plant that I'm not going to be working with, I'm just going to put to the side because I need to put my terracotta pot in the middle here. And I will start with repotting my Zamioculcas zamiifolia Raven, because I think it's going to cause a little bit less mess than when I have to repot these three pots together in one pot. So at the end of this, instead of 6 pots of this plant, I'm going to have 4. So that's much better. So I've got my beautiful terracotta pot here, completely breathable, hole in the bottom. I just need to put a little bit of soil in the bottom, just a little bit, and then lift my plant over into this pot and then just try and feel around the edge as much as I can. But at the same time, I want the plant to be standing up more. So we'll get some soil first. Basically just enough soil to cover the bottom. And then I can take this plant now out of its cover pot. So you can see this plant is still in its cover pot. I haven't changed it since I've had it. I've had it since early summer, I think this year, or last year, I can't remember now. Oh, it's just gonna crumble out everything everywhere, so I need to be careful. This plant has lovely roots all the way around and not completely root bound, but these plants do like to be a little bit more root bound, and they do like to be with a lot of rhizomes in a pot because that causes them to actually grow quicker. So now, this is a little bit lower down in the pot, and I'm going to have to start on one side filling out with soil because these stems are just hanging everywhere. This is going to be really difficult to hold them all together at the same time. I'll try my best. So we'll cue fast forward a little second here while I put the soil in the pot. It's so nice being all nestled up in my ZZ Raven as I put the soil around the edge. It's looking fabulous and I feel so good doing this that I've finally got in and sorted out another one of my plants. Gorgeous. So there we have it. That is my first ZZ plant potted up. My beautiful Zamioculcas zamiifolia Raven is now all done and ready to rejuvenate itself. It's standing up better already because it has more support in this pot. It has a lovely aerating soil, a lovely aerating pot. I will not be watering this plant at all for a while to let it have time to readjust to its new pot now. So I can put this one to the side and get on with the next one. So the next pot I have in front of me is a much bigger pot than the last one, and that is because I need to get my lovely tall ZZ plant into this pot lower down so that I can support these stems and hide all of the cut top parts of the stems that are on the top of this soil at the moment. Now those stems have been cut for a while, they're completely calloused over, and I actually put cinnamon on top of all of the wounds to help stop any fungus or anything like that getting into them, and it hasn't affected the plant at all. Remember, every time you prune back a stem, a new one will shoot up with time. So I just want to put a rock at the bottom because there's a big hole. I have a crystal rock down there that's going to help my plant, and I need to start by putting some soil in the bottom of this pot and then get this plant out of this pot it's been in for quite a while and get it over in this pot. So I'm wondering how difficult this is going to be because this is very rickety and very tall and could snap very easily just the moment I touch it, like now. I have this crystal rock I have at the bottom holding the stick up, holding it up right now. As soon as I remove that, it just went. So I'm really worried about getting this one done. We'll see what happens. I need to go and get myself a trowel first. So, first of all, some soil in the bottom. And now, to get this plant over here. Try my best. This is really difficult. I know you can't see, but I can't do anything about that at the moment. It's so difficult. Oh, this plant's got so many big roots and everything. Oh, look at the size of that root. Now, in. And so delicate at the same time as being a big brute. So there we go. Get this stick here to hold it up. And I just want to get the soil around as quickly as possible. It's all touch and go now because I don't want any of these stems to fall over. They're just so wonderful. But I'm quickly getting the soil around the edge, and this plant will also be finished and sorted in a moment. So that was my second ZZ plant repotted. It looks absolutely amazing. It looks so much better already. It's actually much more sturdier on its own stems. And I can't see all the mess that I'd cut back before. It's all hidden under the soil. And again, as I said, I will not be watering this plant for a while. It will be settling in. And this soil is a little bit moist. It needs to dry out completely before I go in and water this plant. But all these fresh new stems are a sign that this plant is a happy plant. It wants to survive. So it just needed a little bit of help and support. And now I'm really happy. It really does look beautiful in this terracotta pot. Look at the size of it. It's wonderful. So now I just need to get on to my last terracotta pot, which is going to be the potting of all three of these plants in together. So now, time for the last one. These plants that I'm going to be putting into this pot are not as big and not as deep. So I can fill up this pot, I'm sure, around halfway before I start putting them all in. Soil first. So now this could be a bit difficult because I want the highest stems in the middle of the pot and then I want the lower stems around the edge. So I'm going to have to plant the larger plant, which is this one here, in the middle first with the soil around, and then I'll have to excavate some space and then plant the individual smaller plants around the edge. Let's see how easy this plant is going to be to get out of its pot. Shouldn't be so bad. Not too bad. I've got one. And the next one. Separate little rhizomes they've got going on. So, not too bad. This one is a little bit tighter, but I've got it. There we go. Oh, dirt all over. So I've got this one too. So before I plant these, I'm actually going to bring them forth so that you get to see what these beautiful rhizomes and roots look like on these plants. They're so amazing. They're actually quite funny to look at. And this one has got some beautiful examples of them. So let's bring them in. I'll bring the two biggest ones in to show you these. So look at these beautiful plants with their rhizomes here. It's like a big bulbous potato, and then the roots are actually growing out of the top of that at the bottom of the stem. And then this bulbous potato looking thing is where the plant stores a lot of water and moisture, goodness, nutrients, as well as in all the stems and all the leaves, because these are very succulent type plants. And that is why they really don't need a lot of water and they don't like to be sitting in water. You can see these roots are very thick and also full of a lot of moisture. So if these should be sitting in moist soil, they would just rot up and disappear, and then the plant is just going to die. I'll try and bring them in a little bit closer for you. So look at that. Aren't they interesting to see? What an amazing plant. So you can see these roots are very nice and white, creamy coloured. They're very happy. They don't have root rot. They are very happy. So this plant is just ready to be repotted and and set up nice and straight like this so that they can just look beautiful. Lovely fresh leaves on this plant, look at those. Lovely, lovely roots, look at those. So, in we go with all of them. Feels a little bit low down still. I'm going to have to put some more soil in here. I'll lay them down for a minute. This is not that easy. I need to put more soil and then just make a trench to get these first ones in the middle. I can feel here. So I will make a trench and I will place all these bigger pieces in the middle. Because I want to be able to turn my plant around and around as it grows and expands. So I don't want these bigger pieces here to be just at the back, because then it will look very strange when I turn it around, right? So this is going quite well. These first ones all in here. Turn them so that they're facing with their leaves outwards though. And I've got a little one to put down here at the front that needs to face forward as well. So I'll get these planted first and then I'm going to have to come back to be able to put the others in. I'm just pushing the soil around close to these for now because I'm hoping that I can get the others into place before I put more soil actually, because it's going to get really difficult to get in here. So these seem to be standing up for now. Like that, that's fine. And then I'll get the next bunch and put those in. I might as well take this one here. This one's got lecker balls on the top, so I need to get those off. So I can see what I've got going on. And then I can basically get my towel, get these out. Just about loosening them up actually a little bit. They come up quite easily. Another one with a beautiful big rhizome. I want to put these now around the edge so the pot really does look like it's filled out straight away. So that one is there. Then I've got a couple of small ones that I can put in as we go around. And this one has a new baby coming up. I can see a little lump, so that's really nice. And then a little one here that I can put at the back here. Great. So now I need to get my other pot. This pot. Oh! And get these in there too. So I need to turn this around a bit because now I need to get more of these rhizomes around the back here. And now I've just got this empty tray, I can just pull these out onto the tray actually. That would be much easier for me if it's possible. Get my finger in there to loosen the soil a bit first. So I want every single little bit that's growing in this pot. So that's there. Got a lovely big one here. I need to get in here on this edge. That looks absolutely wonderful. Like that. And a lovely one here to go in here. So now this pot is starting to feel like it's lovely and filled out for me, but I just need to look. This is the front for now, so I want the front for now to look good, of course. So right now, I've got everything in this pot, so I just need to get it filled up with soil. So this is the last pot now, and I'm really loving the look of these terracotta pots. These are a kind of very light terracotta colour rather than the brown, dark coloured terracotta pots. They're just beautiful, don't you think? I'm just going around and compacting the soil a little bit to hold them up and to see where I need a little bit more soil, the depth. And then I'm almost completely done here. I've been enjoying having my hands in the soil, but I'm going to be really happy when I'm completely finished. Well, what can I say? I am really happy about the outcome of my repotting of my beautiful Zamioculcas zamiifolia plants here, the green variety and the Raven. They are all gorgeous. Smaller growing plants that are getting taller like this one and my enormous 85 centimeter high one here. That is much more stable, but still not stable enough to hold itself, so it still has a stick and some twine holding these lovely long stems up. And now it's repotted, I am expecting a lot of new stems to shoot up out of this pot in the summer season. Or it may go ahead and start doing that already now during the winter months. You never know. They probably all will start flushing out more now because they have fresh, new, aerating soil. Same soil as I use for practically everything. As long as the soil is aerating, these plants will be happy. So the soil is a garden mix, leckables, perlite and bark chunks that I put in there. And if I had any around here, which I don't at the moment, I would have put some fine grained sand in there as well, but I didn't have that. Doesn't matter because I've already got leckables and perlite in there. So the soil is loose and aerating. And well, my plants are now repotted in terracotta pots that are breathable, so they can breathe all the way around. I have nothing on top of the soil at the moment. Maybe at some point I will want to put something on there to colour it up a little bit, or leckables or whatever. But I still have my first plant here that I planted earlier this year, or last year, I can't remember, I've had it a while. Rescue plants in a plastic pot with leckables, and they have been flushing out new stems and have had no problem whatsoever at all. So no root rot, no overwatering. I've been watering them once a month or so and they've been fine. These are all now, I think, going to flush out with this new energy they've got in the soil, in their pots. They've all been sprayed over before the video. They're going to have to be sprayed over a few more times because they are quite dusty and it's hard to get that off the leaves, but I can't go in and do a little cleanup on every single leaf because there are so many leaves. So I spray them over now and again to help them keep a little bit fresh. And these ones, like my ZZ Raven here, is so much more stable. This beautiful bunch here is absolutely gorgeous. There's already a new stem coming up from one of the plants, so this is probably going to fill out even more and be very happy and look very lively for me. I'm just so happy now and I can't wait to put these all back in their spots around the indoor terrace garden, my bedroom, and wherever else I might want to put them. So before I wrap up, I just want to give you a couple of care tips about this wonderful plant in front of me here. This plant basically is a staple in any plant collector's collection. In an apartment or in a home where you have dark areas, this plant is absolutely okay to live in those darker areas that don't have much light going on. Although these plants do need light, so they can't be just in a room with no window, with no light on. So you're going to have to give them artificial light, but they could go a good few days without light, but that's not going to be good for your plant. You will see it will start to yellow off and it will die off eventually because it needs to be able to photosynthesize still, just like any other plant. But the plant does not like to be in bright direct light. It will burn out the leaves will yellow out, it will wither away, it will turn to mush, it just won't work. And you would have to hack the whole thing down and wait a season for it to grow out again if you're lucky enough to be able to save it. So please do not put this plant anywhere where you have bright direct light in any window. You can put it in a window with direct light if it's for a short period, maybe in the morning or in the evening, where it's not the strongest amount of sunlight, and then your plant will appreciate it. But the absolute best position for this plant is in a bright indirect position. If you have this plant in a bright indirect position, it is going to grow quite quickly for you. It will grow out new shoots, lovely green lush leaves, just like you can see on this plant here. That is the optimal, but as I said, it can live in darker, shadier areas. This one over here is in a very shady area in my bedroom and is flushing out new leaves and doing really well with just the light that I leave on in the bedroom or from the hallway LED lights and normal lamps that aren't close to the plant at all. It's just light filtering through and it seems to be enough to keep that plant happy. This plant has been in a shadier spot in our crystal cottage. And it's been absolutely fine there too. It was just in the wrong kind of pot before, so every new stem that came out snapped off or yellowed out. So now I'm hoping I'm going to get a thicker, bushier plant from this plant next year, because it really does grow very well. I mean, they flush out all year round if they are indoors in a warm environment, in an environment where there's enough light or so forth. They will flush out for you. But this one has been doing so for me in the springtime. But these ones do it all the time. Like this one here is now flushing out new stems, and it is November time. So there's no problem for these plants to flush out. If you do see this plant getting yellow leaves and yellow stems, it's probably a sure sign that you are overwatering your plant, that the soil is too wet and saturated, and that there is some kind of root rot either on the way or already happened. Another sign of just yellowing leaves could be that you haven't watered your plant for a very long time. So if you've left your plant for months on end and not watered it, it will be desperate for water and it will start yellowing out on its leaves as well. And also, it can also get the same as other plants with dried out ends of the leaves. That can also happen if it's not getting enough water. But with this plant, as you're not going to be watering it very often, maybe once a month or in the summer every 10 days or so, not soaking it through, then you probably won't see that as often, but it can happen. On the stems of these plants, and I see it on a few of my stems, they can get black kind of markings up and down the stems that come up. So the stems could be lovely and green like this, and then you'll see all these black and brown markings coming up and down the stems. That is absolutely normal for this plant. It's actually part of the plant. So do not worry about that. As long as the brown or the black is inside the outer layer of the plant, and it's not a bump, or it's not a divot in, or it's not like a scar that you can feel, if it's completely smooth and it's inside the layer of the plant stem, then it's absolutely fine. Do not worry, do not panic. That is part of how this plant is and develops. The ZZ Raven, you can see it's got this very dark foliage. This plant grows out its new foliage a lime green colour, and then they turn dark brown, black, burgundy, whatever you want to call it, black, as they mature. So that is very normal as well. If you're thinking, I've got a ZZ Raven and there's a load of lime green stems, is it reverting back to green? No, it's not. That is the normal process of the ZZ Raven. They come out lime green and then they turn this beautiful, dark, black, brown, burgundy colour. This plant really doesn't need much fertilisation as well, so please don't over-fertilise the plant, especially if you have it in a darker area, because that will be detrimental to the plant. You can fertilise it when it's growing, in the growing season, or when it's growing in your indoor environment, because the environments are creating a growth spurt in your plant. You can fertilise it. I would weaken down that fertiliser a lot more than it says on the package, and I would not fertilise it more than once a month if it's growing, if you really want to. But the plant doesn't need too much fertiliser, okay? So just remember that. Some people might find that this plant is a slow grower, depending on your microenvironment in your home, and some people might find that they grow quite quick. I find that they grow quite quick. I think that they are always producing new stems for me, and they're always getting slightly taller, and they're bushing out, and they're looking beautiful. So my plants, yeah, they grow very, very quickly. And as I said, different seasons they'll be growing. If you have any other information about these plants that you'd like to share with me and anyone else that's watching my videos, please make sure you comment below. That would be absolutely great. There's so much information out there on the internet. There are so many other wonderful videos out there. Make sure you go and have a look at a variety of different videos and online information about the plants that you're interested in, so that you get a good rounded generalization of how to look after your plant, because there's not one set way of looking after a plant. It depends so much on the micro environment of your home or your outside area, wherever you have your plants. It will be different for everybody. Some places your plants will dry out rapidly, and especially if they're in a terracotta pot, so you can water your plant a lot more. Some plants are in plastic pots and they might be in a shady area, and that plant will not need to be watered very much at all, because otherwise it could rot out. And things like the temperature. These plants do not like to be in a temperature that goes below 10 degrees Celsius at the absolute minimum, because they come from Africa. These are plants that grow out in areas where it's much warmer, and they can tolerate drought because they grow in areas where they don't get rain for a very long time, and that's why they get these like rhizomes that look like a potato in the roots, so they can store water for months on end. So yes, so keep these plants in normal room temperature in your home, and they will do fine. They don't like extreme differences in temperature. I think that has been a problem for this plant here in my cottage, where the temperature increases when we're there, and then when we're gone and we shut down, the temperature drops dramatically, and then it goes colder, and then it gets warmer, and that's not good for the plants in the long run. They like to keep a stable temperature, or if the temperature changes, for it to be a gradual change, as it would in the natural environment out in the different seasons of where the plant comes from or where you live. So gradual changes in temperature is the best for this plant. I just think this plant is wonderful to look at, and I can't wait to be able to get myself one of these plants in the variegated variety, and I also need to get the miniature variety. I don't have that either, because I have some spots around and about that are higher up, that are a little bit more shaded, that I'd love to put a plant there, but I can't put these plants there because they're growing too tall, and they're growing rapidly taller for me. So I can't put them up on these high shelves like in the kitchen on the top of the cabinets where there isn't that much space. So I want to get the miniature one, but I also want to get the variegated, so that I have a lovely collection of the different varieties of this beautiful plant. So as you hear, I have more plants to collect and more videos coming up. I haven't actually seen the variegated variety of this plant anywhere in Sweden so far when I've been in any plant centre. So I can't wait for them to arrive here so I can get my hands on one. So anyway, don't be afraid to get in there and get your ZZ plants. If they're hanging over and flopping and so forth, get in there and repot your plants so you can stabilise them again. Then they will stabilise themselves with their roots in no time, and they will be happy for a while until you have to go and repeat the process again. So just before I close off, I just want to bring my ZZ Raven closer to the camera, and my ZZ, my green ZZ here, closer to the camera, so that you can see them closer up before I end this video, so you can get a closer look of how stable and beautiful they are now. So look at this beautiful plant. Look how stable it is now compared to how it was before, flopping out to all sides. That is absolutely wonderful. That worked out so well for me. And yeah, I can just continue watching this beautiful plant flush out more and more. Isn't that lovely? Oh, now this one's pretty heavy. Ooh. But look, you can see a new stem coming out there. And all these stems that I put into this pot together, I put a little crystal skull at the bottom, because I love my crystal skulls to give some energy to the plant. Lovely terracotta pot. And look at this bunch. It looks so much nicer together as a bushy plant. And this is going to keep producing more bushing for me. So that's absolutely wonderful. So all I have to say now is thank you very much once again for watching Gardens and Crystals with me, Wesley Peterson. Please remember to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you know when my next video will be uploaded. And I will see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.